Well, good morning. And it is a morning of politics, I'm afraid. But before we go any further, I, on this program, have consistently complained that we have minnows in charge in Westminster. But one of the giants of politics, has died overnight. Betty Boothroyd, the former Speaker, who was a formidable lady and brought great status to the post of Speaker before we got Burkhoff, as I called him. Betty Boothroyd. We have lost a giant of politics, and there are too few of them left. So we pay tribute to Betty and all that she brought to politics, the status she gave it, and the fact that she was unmovable. She stuck to the rule book and made sure that everybody else did, and kept the House in order instead of the chaotic situation that we have today, with backbenchers running around doing all sorts of things to take the government's eye off the ball with the innumerable problems that it has in modern society. Okay, let's go and do our normal thing, shall we? Let's see. First of all, we need to take a look at the papers, and we will determine what on earth is going on. As usual, great claims from our politicians, and the same approach from many of the backbenchers is, we believe it when we see it, and anyway, it ain't good enough. Is it or isn't it? The situation in Northern Ireland is always very complex. I lived there for 15 years, and I came away knowing less than when I first arrived. And whether, in fact, anybody can unravel this complexity for Brexit, heaven only knows. I must say that Rishi Sunak has still got to win me over as a leader, and the European Union leader that he met and managed to involve King Charles in a constitutional monarchy where the monarch is not supposed to be involved in these sort of things is, oh my goodness me. I mean, how many difficulties are they going to create for themselves? But the fact of the matter is that von Leiden, well, that's her name, I think, is hardly somebody without a stain on her character, and yet she ends up head of the biggest organization which so many people in this country want to join. Why didn't we join Social Democrats in Germany so many years ago? We might as well. It is totally beyond me as to why we want to join a corrupt organization that is far from democratic and whose leadership is not open. It is not open. They pass it around between themselves and appoint themselves. We have no say whatsoever. To me, that's madness. And I would rather do without any benefits from the EU until such time as they have sorted their own house. Then, perhaps, we should say, yes, should we either rejoin or should we have a closer association with Europe? But not until they get their house in order. And they don't even seem to make a move towards that. And you can look at me and you can say, oh, what the hell does he know what he's talking about? Well, I worked for the EU. I've worked in several of the emerging economies and democracies who wanted membership. And believe me, they are worse in reality than they are in reputation. You'll never get me or persuade me And my answer to anybody who says, Keith, you're a Luddite, you're nonsense, you should go with this big organization. There's no sir, no ma'am. And my challenge to you is go and work for them. Then decide whether you would like this country to be part of them, the way that they're presently constituted. Anyway, the main headline is that the Prime Minister says we've got a new chapter in relations with the EU after the Northern Ireland deal. Whoopee! I can imagine that. Yes, I can imagine that. The Guardian it says a deal reached between the UK and the European Union to amend the Northern Ireland Protocol dominates Tuesday's front pages. The Guardian reports that the agreement, which will reduce checks on goods moving from Great Britain to Northern Ireland, has been called a decisive breakthrough by Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Well, he would call it that, wouldn't he? And the European Committee President Ursula, that's her first name, yes, Ursula von der Leyen. The paper adds that it came after 4 months of intense negotiations. Yeah, probably could have done it in 5 minutes. The Times, Brexit breakthrough, the new protocol puzzle, who proposed an audience with the King? The Times quotes Sunak declaring the deal decisively better than the one delivered by his predecessor, Boris Johnson. It reports the agreement will give the Stormont Assembly an emergency brake on any new EU law affecting Northern Ireland, and that it has won praise from a number of senior Brexit-backing Tory MPs. Well, we've heard all that before, haven't we? I mean, on the other side, which isn't reported in this paper, is that apparently the Northern Ireland Assembly, or the DUP, which is basically the Protestant organisation, the Democratic Unionist Party, have said, we're treating this with a pinch of salt. We need to see, do we really have the ability to veto any legislation of the EU that affects Northern Ireland? Ha ha. And I must confess this for the moment, I'm ha ha. The Metro, you can put the oven on, is the reference is to Boris Johnson's claim, made more than 3 years ago, that his own deal with the EU was oven ready. The headline in the Metro reads, "You can put the oven on." Watch this space. I'm sorry if I'm sounding very skeptical. I am reporting to you what's in the papers. The only thing is that because we are who we are, we're able to make comment as we go along. And we're not breaking journalistic protocol at all. Not at all. We have the right on this station, which is independent and doesn't believe in any isms. We are not swept up by sexism, any sort of colorism, nationalism, any of those things. We are not affected by them. Our opinion is our own, based on the facts that we see in front of us. So don't come barreling in and say, "Oh, you're sounding biased." Yeah, we are, but only in as much as we don't go along with what everybody gets excited about. Just because everybody's getting excited, we try to take a look at things, and based on our experience, which is considerable. I mean, I don't know whether you know that we have in our ranks on Mirador Television is Stuart Dalby, who is a former Financial Times journalist and who has reported from many parts of the world, including both Northern Ireland and Vietnam and other places where there were lots of problems. We have Rosie Hayes, who was reporting from Cuba for ITN for a number of years. We have Mark Landsman, who is a former White House correspondent. I mean, so senior that when you said Walter Cronkite, you immediately triggered Mark Landsman in most Americans' minds. So we have a very, very good team and a very experienced journalists. So when we actually put our heads together and decide on something, we normally are coming up with a consensus of people who know what they're talking about. So before you poo-poo us as being just a tiny little inconsequential station out of the White Hart Hotel in Lewis, think twice. We've probably got more experience than most of the people that we're quoting at the moment, most of these papers. The Eye, Sunak secures a breakthrough on Brexit as tensions loom, right? The DUP is... there you see, this is where I was saying, have sounded a warning over the claim that Stormont will be able to veto new European law. The paper says Johnson is weighing up whether to stage a public intervention as Sunak tries to sell the agreement to his own backbenchers. Yes, here we go, chaps. Here we go. Look at what we've achieved. Ha, ha, ha. The Financial Times. Northern Ireland trade deal eases post-Brexit tensions with Brussels. Yes, it may. But is it real? The FT describes the agreement as a turning point, but says many European Eurosceptic Tories may want to take their lead from the DUP, whose leader, Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, told the Commons on Monday that there remain some key issues of concern. Yes, you don't actually blazon those, do you, Rishi? Sunak, my deal is a new way forward. Picture of him grinning with Ursula. The Telegraph quotes Sunak praising von der Leyen's vision in recognizing the possibility of a new way forward. And von der Leyen saying she hopes the deal will open a new chapter for UK-EU relations. I bet she does. Yeah, the EU are looking for any way to get us back in. And the paper also says that an expected backlash from Tory Eurosceptics has so far failed to materialise. Yeah, well, these backbench Tories, I'm not saying I go along with them, but they're very good at keeping their powder dry until such time as they want to go wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. The Daily Mail. Has Rishi done the impossible? The Mail says that the feared Tory revolt over the deal melted away last night and speculates that Sunak might have done the impossible by addressing the issues with the existing agreement. Conservatives MPs David Davis, Dominic Steve Barclay, all former Brexit secretaries have also written a joint article for the paper describing the deal as a complete and utter game changer. The Mirror, by the way, has what I reported earlier, Betty Boothroyd's picture on the front page or on the top banner. Betty Boothroyd, Speaker of the House, a giant amongst women, but a giant amongst, never mind about amongst women, she was a giant amongst politicians. Absolutely superb lady who ruled the House with a rod of iron, but in fairness and in justice. She was a Labour MP, I believe, before she became Speaker, but there was no bias from her. She was straight down the line. An incredible lady, and the world, and Britain particularly, is worse off without her. The Mirror actually headlines, it stays away from politics where it can, and it says the Ripper secret revealed, evil's end, serial killer's ashes were scattered at a beauty spot, says his niece. And they are talking about the Peter Sutcliffe, the Ripper, the Yorkshire Ripper, he was known as, who killed several ladies, and as a lorry driver was able to spirit them away to different places. And his ashes have been scattered at a beauty spot near the Cumbrian village of Arnside, which he visited as a child. Right, the Sun. Broadchurch star dumps Downton star for better co-star. Well, is if we're going to go away from Brexit for a moment, is why not where they're all having it off with one another? I mean, I having lived on the periphery of the stardom, if you like, not me, but of theatre and film and TV and so on, and knowing what's going on, it is very difficult for somebody to act making love to somebody on the screen and do it convincingly without getting some stirrings. So this happens all the time. But now it looks as if they're really on the merry-go-round. As everybody he kisses, he's ready to do other things with. Oh, dear, dear, dear. So the Daily Star, Mexico Press, we've caught an elf. Now, what's that all about? Reports that the president of Mexico has claimed a mythical tree-climbing elf has been captured on camera. Yes, the actual president, the paper says. So if it's a president saying it, it must be true. I don't really know much about this elf in Mexico, but apparently it's well known there. So what the heck is if they've caught the elf, they've caught the elf. Oh, dear, 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 dear. Let's see if we can take a look at what is... now, here's some breaking news in the last hour. And there's a huge police search in Brighton for a missing baby. Oh, that's pretty serious stuff. After aristocrat Constance Martin and partners are arrested. Now, this seems to be an ongoing story. And let's take a bit deeper look. There's a huge police presence in Brighton this morning as part of an urgent search launched to find the missing baby of aristocrat Constance Martin and her partner, Mark Gordon, after the pair were arrested last night. The baby has not had any medical attention since birth in early January. Metropolitan Police said the pair were located by officers from Sussex Police in Stammer Village on Monday night, after a member of the public recognized seeing them shortly before 9:30 p.m. So all this happened overnight. So there you are. They're looking for the baby, the child. That I think that this story is coming back to me now. Is that the couple disappeared with the child, and everybody was fearing for the child's safety because of the cold snap, and that they were actually camping out or getting lost upon the downs somewhere. Okay, Sussex Cinema, the Sussex Cineworld's at risk of closing after the company's COVID-19 struggles. Cineworld, let's see. Cineworld cinemas across the UK and Ireland are now at risk of closure, as the company reports they have been approached by potential suitors interested in a takeover. The chain, which has over 100 cinemas across the UK and Ireland, filed for bankruptcy protection in America last year after struggling to recover from the impact of COVID. On Friday, Cineworld suggested a takeover could be in the making. However, none of the potential suitors were willing to pay cash for the company. However, with a debt of £5 billion, or not much, a takeover may not be as smooth as one would hope. So there's a business story that is undoubtedly. Anything else? Right, okay. Over the weekend, there was a person airlifted to hospital after being pulled from the water. Where did that happen? That happened in Eastbourne, pulled from the water in Eastbourne. And there's a picture of the helicopter on the beach, having gone out there to try to save the person. It's now 8:51, and I think what we need to do is to take a look at, hopefully. Yes, take a look at what should be there and isn't there. Why we always manage to get these things wrong, we have no idea. They say they all look fine when we're ready to go on the air, but well, here we go. Now that zero starting the low, as it's remained low, because it's still only right now 0 degrees centigrade and mostly cloudy. So it is cool out there. So be careful when you go out. It's cool. And not to be trifled with, particularly. I'm actually broadcasting from home today, from on the outskirts of Lewis, just somewhere near the prison. No, I haven't been thrown into the prison yet, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's not far away. Yeah, but the reason being is that yesterday we reported on the rise of avian flu. Now, I normally do not give way to any of these things, but this morning I was full of sniffles, and I decided that, perhaps just because of age, is that I should be very cautious about this thing and not ignore the signs and the warnings from the medical fraternity that avian flu is that apparently those people that have caught it is that there's a 50% death rate. So do be careful, particularly if you're of a sort of similar age to me. Do be careful and cover up. I normally shrug these things off, but I don't really want to die just yet. I don't want to. Good many people would love to see me off, I'm sure. But that's where we are. Okay, we had a terrific interview from New York yesterday with the opera people who actually looking at one of their new presentations for the next 12 months, said that they may well include Lewis and the White Hart in the scenario, based on the fact that Tom Paine used the White Hart to get the rights of man going and to steer the then colonies away from the motherland of George IV, who was, as Prince Regent, loved Lewis. He came and sowed his wild oats here, and it was a great favourite at the races. They say that when the Prince Regent appeared at the races with all his entourage and so on and so forth, Hilary Lewis, is that it boosted the attendance by up to 10,000 people. Incredible. And then when the railway came, and it was much easier to get to, even more. So that's where we stand for the moment. It's 8:57 for those people who want to know. Once again, it's 0 degrees. What can you expect outside? Well, you can expect a bit of light rain from time to time. Right now, the sun is trying to break through the clouds, but it's not having much success. So it's staying cold. And there is a moderate breeze. Now, I'm looking at my favourite markers to show me how stiff that breeze is, and at the moment, it's not at all. The trees are totally still. Mind you, some of them have been cropped, pruned, so they're not waving their branches quite the way that they have in the past. But nonetheless, there doesn't seem any movement in the vegetation at all. So perhaps the breeze isn't quite as stiff as the forecasters have suggested. But sometimes we're still very early in the day, and this is when we start to get going. But we haven't yet. It is taking time to warm up. It hasn't got out of the starting gate. So be very careful when you go out there, and you don't go out thinking, oh, gosh, this is the way it is. Get to where you're going, and then when it's time to come back or come out, what you find is, oh golly gosh, is this is colder and more miserable than we thought. All right, you are. So what we do now is we take an hour, a half-hour break. Sorry, to 9:30, and then we come back with some little bits of history and stuff that might amuse you. So it's all happening. Let me see you in half an hour. The figures are beginning to show improvement, and they're very encouraging. More and more of you are beginning to realise that Mirador doesn't catch cats, lost cats. What it does do is it brings sort of a quality of interview and quality of program to Lewis that nobody else does. Some of it is old stuff, some of it is new stuff, some of it is stuff that's on the spot. But for the moment, what we've had on the headlines from the major newspapers is Rishi Sunak claims that the Northern Ireland Protocol has been altered so that now the sticking point between us and the EU over Northern Ireland has been resolved. And a lot of people, both in Ulster and here, are going ho, ho, ho. Yes, sir. So many people, so many prime ministers have been saying that, and the backbenchers have then come to get them. So let's hope that what he's saying is true. Okay, now it is 9 o'clock, so we're going to take a half-hour break, gather our skirts, and fill our lungs with fresh air, have a cup of coffee, and then see what we've got for you from 9:30 onwards. So until then, let us say toodle pip, shall we? Yes, why not?